वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुं श्रीकृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। Pranams from Dr. R.J. Kalpana. Welcome to the study of the Bhagavad Gita. In today's session, we will study Chapter 6, AtmaSamyamaYoga, the Yoga of Self-Control, from Shloka 31 onwards. So thus far, we have looked at the methodology of meditation, the benefits of meditation, and what it means to have a disciplined mind. And in the following shlokas, we will see what are the marks of that yogi who has been able to realize God. Shloka 31. The yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as residing in all beings as their very self abides in me no matter what he does. So that yogi who has attained complete merger with the divine, who sees only the divine in everything and everyone around him, who still has a mortal body, who still lives in the world of matter, and yet is abiding, yet is merged, is constantly absorbed in that divine. Now the last phrase, no matter what he does, we need to understand it within its proper context. What it means is that once the yogi has attained merger with the divine, there is no more duality. There is no more a human dimension and a divine dimension. The yogi becomes pure divine consciousness, pure divine light, because every atom and cell of his body is illumined by that divine presence. He might have a gross body which is subject to his samskaras and is time bound, but his soul resides in a higher consciousness, in a celestial plane. And so no matter what he does, meaning the human will now has merged with the divine will, there is no difference. When that yogi speaks, it is the voice of God. When that yogi acts, it is the act of God. It is the divine that is channelized through that yogi, because the yogi does not have an identity anymore. He has merged with the divine completely. Shloka 32. Arjuna, he who looks on all as one, on the analogy of his own self, and looks upon the joy and sorrow of all with a similar eye, such a yogi is deemed the highest of all. to transcend the world of dualities, to transcend this world of Maya, to go beyond likes and dislikes, and understand that it is that divine principle that is present in everything and everyone around us in this universe. The entire universe is but running on the divine principle. And so that is a yogi of the highest order. That is a mark of a true yogi. Shloka 33. Arjuna said, Krishna, owing to restlessness of mind, I do not perceive the stability of this yoga in the form of equanimity which you have just spoken of. Now, having heard this entire chapter, 32 shlokas on the yoga of self-control, on meditation, on fixing your mind on one object, withdrawing from the world of the senses, not to be a slave to desires, Arjuna is overwhelmed and confesses that he has a restless mind, and it is very difficult to establish oneself in that state of equanimity, into that state of steadfastness. Shloka 34. For Krishna, the mind is very unsteady, turbulent, tenacious and powerful. Therefore, I consider it as difficult to control as the wind. And Arjuna here confesses that it is as difficult to harness wind as it is to subdue his mind, because it is turbulent and unsteady, and the thoughts are very powerful because they are sustained on very powerful emotions of likes and dislikes, of anger and lust and hate and passion. And so he confirms and confesses about the difficulty of controlling the mind. In Shloka 35, Krishna says, the mind is restless, no doubt, and difficult to curb, Arjuna, but it can be brought under control by repeated practice of meditation and by the exercise of dispassion, O son of Kunti. And Krishna, with his infinite compassion, as a father to his son, says, yes, of course the mind is restless, and it is very difficult to control the mind, child, but practice. Dedicate your time daily for this practice, because it can be brought under control, like an unruly horse that can be trained by repeated practice, and also by the exercise of dispassion. Vairagya. Detach yourself from all attractions and hankering after worldly pleasures and worldly objects. Move towards your inner world. Move towards that inner world that can only sustain you in the hereafter. Exercise vairagya, become detached from this world, and by practice of meditation, the mind can become steadfast. Shloka 36. Yoga is difficult of achievement for one whose mind is not subdued. By him, however, who has the mind under control and is ceaselessly striving, it can be easily attained through practice. Such is my conviction. If the mind is not subdued, then yoga is not a path for that person. It becomes difficult to achieve. But a subdued mind gives up all pretense to turbulence, and it becomes obedient. It becomes like the still, clear water of a pond, tranquil. So its very stillness can reveal the hidden depths of that water body. And Krishna confidently says that this can be attained through constant practice. Shloka 37. Arjuna said, Krishna, what becomes of the soul who, though endowed with faith, has not been able to subdue his passions, and whose mind is therefore diverted from yoga at the time of death, and who thus fails to reach perfection in yoga, God realization? So Arjuna has a question that all of us would have entertained at some point in our time. So what happens to that abhyasi who has performed his abhyas but in a half-hearted manner, who has complete faith in the divine, complete faith in the process and the methodology of meditation, but yet a slave to his passions, a slave to his thoughts, and at the time of death his mind is diverted and he fails to reach liberation, God realization. So Shloka 38. Krishna, straight from the path leading to God realization, and without anything to stand upon, is he not lost like the torn cloud, deprived of both God realization and heavenly enjoyment? So now the second part to the question. He's not been steady on that path. There is no constant repeated practice. And at the time of death, far more than normal, his mind has been strayed from yoga, from realization, and he has not attained liberation. So therefore, Krishna, Arjuna asks, he is deprived of both God realization and heavenly enjoyment, meaning he is deprived of both liberation and union with the divine. Shloka 39. Arjuna says, Krishna, it behoves you to slash this doubt of mine completely, for none other than you can be found who can tear this doubt. And once again Arjuna appeals to Krishna, saying that there's no one else I can turn to. You're the only one who can remove this doubt from my mind. Shloka 40. Sri Bhagavan said, Dear Arjuna, there is no fall for him either here or hereafter, for none who strives for self-redemption, that is, God realization, ever meets with an evil destiny. And therefore Krishna confirms to us that if we are on the path of yoga towards the divine, but we have not yet achieved either liberation or union with the divine, there is no degradation, there is no fall from a level of existence. Our journey, our evolution will stop at that place and carry on from the place where we left off. There won't be any fall. Shloka 41. He who has fallen from yoga obtains the higher worlds to which men of meritorious deeds alone are entitled, and having recited there for countless years, takes birth in the house of the pious and wealthy men. And so Krishna here gives us a glimpse as to the process of what happens to that person who, although on the path of yoga, has not completed his goals. If his samskaras, if his good samskaras far outweigh his bad samskaras, he has access to higher celestial dimensions like the heaven, Swargaloka, and there, for countless years until his stock of good samskaras are exhausted, he is permitted to reside there. And then, once his stock is completed, then once more he comes back to the human dimension and takes birth in the house of a pious and wealthy man. So essentially, the abhyasi, the practitioner of the yoga, will have a sporting chance to pick up where he left off, because the environment into which he is going to be born into is pious, spiritually inclined, and comfortable enough that he need not worry too much about earning a daily living. Shloka 42. Or if he is possessed of dispassion, he is born in the family of enlightened yogis, but such a birth in this world is very difficult to obtain. If the yogi is of a high caliber and has practiced vairagya, detachment from worldly pleasures and worldly objects, then he will be born into a family of enlightened yogis. He needs the right environment to continue his spiritual evolution, and therefore he chooses the environment of enlightened yogis who can and who will assist him in his spiritual evolution. But Krishna says, such a birth in this world is very difficult to obtain because it is a rarity. Hmm? And it's almost inaccessible to come across an environment, a family of enlightened yogis, a lineage dedicated to spiritual evolution. Shloka 43. Arjuna, he automatically regains in that birth the spiritual insight of his previous birth, and through that he strives harder than ever for perfection in the form of God realization. And therefore, Krishna says that there is no fall for him, right? We looked in the earlier shloka where he says that he who depends on me, there is no fall for him, either here or hereafter. Whoever walks on the path towards God realization can never be met with an evil destiny. So, whatever little achievements of spiritual evolution we might have achieved in this lifetime, in our next lifetime, we merely pick up the threads and proceed further. We regain all that spiritual insight that we worked for, we earned in our previous birth. And through that, using that as a basis, as a foundation, we strive harder than ever for perfection, for attaining liberation and union with the divine. Shloka 44. The other one who takes birth in a rich family, though under the sway of his senses, feels drawn towards God by force of the habit acquired in his previous birth. Nay, even the seeker of enlightenment on yoga, in the form of even-mindedness, transcends the fruit of actions performed with some interested motive as laid down in the Vedas. And so Krishna says that yogi who is born into a pious but a very wealthy family, although under the sway of the opulence, although under the sway of the senses, by force of habit of his previous lifetimes, he would naturally gravitate towards the divine. And he will transcend the fruit of actions performed as laid down by the scriptures in the manner of a karma yogi. All that is ordained by the Vedic scriptures, all the rites and rituals, in the course of time he will perform them, and he will be able to transcend even the fruits of those actions. Shloka 45. The yogi, however, who diligently takes up the practice attains perfection in this very life, with the help of latencies of many births, and being thoroughly purged of sin, forthwith reaches the supreme state. So here, Krishna talks about this lifetime only, saying that in this lifetime, that yogi who diligently takes up the practice of meditation with the help of all that he has acquired in his previous lifetimes, a million lifetimes of working, of striving, of striving towards the divine. And on the basis of that, he picks up the threads and practices diligently, he will attain perfection in this very life itself. After he has been thoroughly cured of all imperfections and complexities, he forthwith reaches the supreme state, meaning he forthwith merges with the eternal, the unmanifested divinity. Shloka 46. The yogi is superior to the ascetics. He is regarded as superior even to those versed in sacred lore. The yogi is also superior to those who perform action with some interested motive. Therefore, Arjuna, do you become a yogi? So here, Krishna compares the yogi to the other disciplines. So he says the yogi is superior to the ascetics. The ascetics who have renounced worldly enjoyments, who have undertaken control of their senses, who have endured all manner of sufferings with their purificatory rituals, who have undertaken intense tapas, and yet the yogi is considered to be superior to such people. He is also superior to those versed in sacred lore, those well versed in the scriptures, those who can tell right down to the last comma and period the exact details of the Vedas, the Upanishads, and what the divine has to say in all of them. The yogi is yet considered to be superior to such people. The yogi is also superior to the karma yogis, those who perform the yoga with selfishness. And therefore, Arjuna, he says, become a yogi. And so here, Krishna literally encapsulates all the different disciplines that he has thus far revealed to us: the Sankhya Yogi, the Karma Yogi. And then he talks about how walking on the path of yoga with steadfastness of mind, control of the senses, is considered to be the best. And so we come to the last shloka of this chapter, shloka 47. Of all yogis again, he who devotedly worships me with his mind focused on me is considered by me to be the best yogi. And here Krishna reveals to us of all the different types of yogis, the Sankhya Yogi, the Karma Yogi, the Bhakti Yogi, the Dhyana Yogi, that yogi who devotedly worships me with his mind focused on me is the best yogi. So, one intense love, unswerving loyalty to the divine, bhakti, mind focused on me, single-minded attention, skill in action, steadfastness of the mind. So these two steps are required to attain the divine and to be considered to be the best of yogis. How else would we approach the divine but with a heart overflowing with love, that which is a boundless ocean of infinite joy? We too must approach it with that same infinite joy. Om Tatsadita Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayan Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade AtmaSamyamaYogo Nama Shashtodhyayaha. Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna ends the 6th chapter titled The Yoga of Self-Control.